and you just drop that in the glass. And then we just give it a little taste test. Well, even if I do say so myself, that's pretty good. Cheers. Hello there and welcome back to Cricket and Cocktails. England are 1-up in the Test series against Pakistan with time to spare after demolishing a modest team by an innings and 103 runs inside 3 days at Headingley. In truth, this was a mismatch throughout. England captain Joe Root put Pakistan into bat and an all-seam English attack blasted the touring side out for 171. And Pakistan fared little better in the field with a one-dimensional pace attack that struggled to contain England with the older ball. Plus Harry Brook was dropped in the slips on one by the acting captain Salman Ali Aga. He went on to score 91. 3 other players made 50s, Joe Root, Dan Lawrence and Jordan Cox, as England racked up 409. Pakistan fared little better in the second innings. In fact, they fared even worse. They were bowled out for 135 in less than 38 overs. Ollie Robinson and Josh Tongue both took 8 wickets in the match. Only 3 Pakistan players made more than 40 in the whole game. And arguably the only bright spot for Pakistan was the bowling of left-arm spinner Ali Usman, who took 5 wickets for 95. I discussed the result of this match with my cricketing friend Alan Bone while I was on county championship duty, just before play started at Merchant Taylor School. Alan, thank you very much for joining me on Cricket and Cocktails. Slightly different setting today, as you can see, because at the same time, or near enough the same time that Test cricket returned after the 100, county cricket returned as well. So I'm in a very festival county cricket setting. If I had my microphone on, I'd say welcome to Merchant Taylor School. So let's be honest, before this Pakistan Test series started and before the New Zealand series started, we probably looked at this fixture list and thought, oh, well, this is fairly low key. England will get through this without too much difficulty. But because of what's happened before with New Zealand, where we lost a series that I think we were widely expected to win, these 3 matches have become very important, not just for Jordan Cox, who has come in for the injured Jacob Bethel, but really for the whole England team. So given they are against fairly modest opposition, but given the importance of this fixture, what are your thoughts on England's victory?
Well, my first thought is thank heavens, Ben, frankly. Thank heavens they won. I mean, you're playing a Pakistan team that I think has lost 5 of the last 6 tests that they've played. Something like, I've got the stats here, 14 defeats from the last 19 test matches since 2023. So if England can't beat a team like that at home, then we should probably all just give up and go home completely. Thank goodness they won. The manner in which they won, we can obviously talk about, which was emphatic and comprehensive. But in a way, it's kind of no more than we expect in these circumstances. If they are going to make any sort of challenge with the home Ashes next summer, we need to be beating teams like Pakistan, beating them well, building a bowling attack, building a cohesive and coherent team after all the chaos of the last year or so.
And of course, Pakistan did come in, even though they're not a top-notch side to begin with. They did come in with some disadvantages. Shah Massood only just made it through a late fitness test because he picked up a finger injury in the warm-up game at Beckenham. And Babar Azam did not make it. Aga, who was the stand-in captain, he was interviewed afterwards, and given everything that had happened to him, he dropped an absolute sitter in the slips when Harry Brook was on one. He said he'd be quite delighted for Babar Azam to return to the captaincy. So Pakistan have had some disadvantages. They have only had the one warm-up game. But there were 1 or 2 bright spots there, weren't there? I mean, Ali Usman bowled decently. Did you think there's any hope that Pakistan, if not can come back and win this series, that they can at least be more competitive?
Well, let's hope so, because as nice as it is as an England fan to see England win, it's actually not great seeing matches over in a couple of days and trounced by an innings. So I do hope they will be more competitive. I suppose a lot will depend on conditions They've got this very one-paced attack in terms of the seam bowling. The spinner, as you said, did very well, and it will be very good for them to be welcoming back Babar Azam to strengthen the batting. And as the captain, as you said, his replacement looked like he couldn't have sort of handed back the armband any quicker if if it had been ripped away from him. But really, their basic cricket was fairly abject in this game. The fielding, I think there was,
Yeah.
I can't remember which of the commentators saying it was a throwback to the 70s, really. It was sort of put the old boot out and hope for the best.
And
And
one ball was literally booted over the boundary.
yeah, and there were a couple of not very good Premier League anticipation moments, as you say, kicking the ball into the boundary. The whole thing, the ability to bowl three balls and over in the right place, let alone six, to field well, to hold your catches, to build in, the real sort of Janet and John basics of Test match cricket just were really not there at all. So it's hard to judge England and whether they've made progress or not, given what they were up against.
Yes, I mean that sort of ties into something else I was going to say, because I do think there were one or two issues with this England team, but it didn't matter because of the gulf in class between the host team and the opposition. So I'd like to look at Ben Duckett. Now, Ben Duckett, don't forget, played a full pass in the 100. He was in the final for Trent Rockets on Sunday. And then he's got this incredibly short turnaround for a test match that starts on the Wednesday. And I thought he wasn't quite. I just don't think he was 100% in that innings. And I'd say the same for Jofra Archer, although he had the benefit of a second innings to bowl in, and Duckett didn't have a second innings to bat in, and he wasn't in the final for the 100, but he didn't have much more of a turnaround than Duckett. Do you think against a stronger opposition that could have been an issue?
Oh, absolutely. I think this is happening more and more with congested fixture lists and players having to kind of do breakneck kind of turns from one format to the other. I slightly disagree. I thought Duckett actually looked okay, and they were saying on the radio that I can't remember the exact stat, but the number of twos that he'd scored with, it was basically all twos his whole innings, thus indicating he's not chasing it, going after boundaries and playing extravagant shots. He's just dinking it around and running well, and then deciding to review plum LBWs. But anyway, that's another story.
Well,
Um,
he's not alone in that, is it? There
He's
were a
not
couple
alone in that. No,
of bad news.
Mr. Root did a similar thing, and you think, well, maybe my eyesight's getting worse with age, but it looks so out. I don't understand why either of those were reviewed. I think it's just the nature of the beast. I think it's harder actually for the bowlers in a way, because I guess in the 100 they're bowling that bit shorter because they don't want to have it, as they say, in the slot to be walloped out of the ground.
Yeah.
And I was quite impressed that our attack managed to pitch the thing up and use the movement that was there, because I was expecting them to be short of a length, given, as you say, the recent playing in the 100. So that was good.
Robinson was absolutely relentless, in my view. Josh Tongue tended to blow hot and cold for me, but when he was hot, he was absolutely scorching. And
Mm.
and really, it was Tongue that started the really terminal decline in the second innings, wasn't it? Archer got them started, but it was Tongue that really put it to bed.
And it was nice for him to get some of the left-handers out as well, because there is this discrepancy. I think he averaged at 23 against right-handers and high 30s against lefties. So that has now come down a bit. And I wonder how much of that is just a mental thing, actually. And there's no reason why he shouldn't bowl well to left-handers. Sham Masood caught at slip in that second innings. Very good line and length, pitching it up, drawing him forward into the stroke. I mean, that's what you need to do against left-handers. It's no different to right-handers, really. But he was a real success, and I thought as a unit, the four seamers work really well together. You've got Robinson, the variation of being slower, of being more accurate, versus the pace and bounce of Archer, the movement of Tongue, and Gus Atkinson as well, who, okay, he didn't get that many wickets, but I thought he bowled perfectly respectably. So that worked well as a quartet, I thought.
Now, Pakistan did play a frontline spinner, and England did not. Now, you could argue with England that we at the moment, we're probably struggling to find a spinner that's really worthy of the name at Test level. Do you think Pakistan were right to play a left arm, or should they? Johnson Agnew, for example, argued they should have gone with an all-seam attack. What's your thoughts on the
Well,
select?
I think England have so many problems in almost any conditions. We have problems bowling spin, and we also have problems batting against decent spin as well. I mean, he got 5 wickets. We got Harry Brook out with an absolute beauty. So I don't think he was the problem for them. I think the problem was having 3 seamers that are too similar in pace and in style. And the main problem is if you get rolled for 170 in your first innings and then sort of less than that second time round, you're not going to win many test matches.
No,
So the problem is the batting. The other thing is the bizarre selection that Pakistan have had for this tour and for the West Indies series that preceded it. I mean, you've got no man Ali, who was the spinner who really decimated England on their last tour to Pakistan and enabled them to go from 1-0 down to winning 2-1. I mean, he took 20 wickets in 2 tests in that series, albeit on helpful pitches.
and he's in
And
England now,
and
isn't
he's
he?
in England
Playing
now. I mean,
captain.
he's playing at Lancashire, and you think, well, why on earth is he not in the? Because I assumed I was looking into this yesterday, and I assumed he must be injured or something. But to have him actually literally in the country playing, and there must be some mental scarring for the England batsman given what happened last time. I find it extraordinary he's not there. It's also bizarre that in the pace bowling you haven't got Shaheen Afridi or Naseem Shah.
Yeah,
Both of
and
them, I think,
Shaheen's played loads of county cricket as well.
absolutely. And I think Misbah Al Haq was saying before the West Indies series that they were left out of the squads because of lack of red ball cricket. Well, I mean, Pakistan aren't strong enough at the moment to be making those sorts of strange selections. You've got to, it's the old cliche, you've got to pick your best available team or squad. The 3 I've mentioned would all be in that. So really, really odd that none of them are in the squad. I don't think they have many other options for Lords really.
Well, no, they don't. I mean, they're picking from a much smaller base of
Mm.
full-time professionals than England, Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, any of those teams. So I think you're right that they probably just need to go for their best 14 or 15 players, irrespective of how much red ball cricket they have. I think that they're all very valid points. I'd like to have a look at Jordan Cox. Now,
Mhm.
we don't know how long he's going to be in the side for. Officially, he's in there for the injured Jacob Bethel. I thought he batted with a great deal of assurance. Took a couple of. I mean, again, he was one of the trio that made a fairly stupid review decision. But apart from that, he had a very good game. And you would think he must be in the side for the series. Now, when Bethel comes back, as he surely will, is there a place for Jordan Cox as well?
Well, there might be a place for him taking the wicket-keeping gloves down at 6 or 7. Because I think the guy who may start to come under pressure is Jamie Smith. You look at his test figures, still very respectable, averages 39 with the bats, keeping pretty good. I think he's improving. He's
Oh, certainly.
working a lot with Sarah Taylor in the England setup, and obviously improving as a wicketkeeper. But his batting is definitely heading south at the moment. Now, whether that's terminal or whether he's getting himself kind of in a bit of a muddle down at 7 as to how to bat with the tail, which is obviously a skill in and of itself, how you do that, how you go about building an innings when you attack, when you farm the strike, etc. I I don't really know. I mean, he had a very difficult Ashes tour, both in front and behind the stumps, and I wonder if there are still scars from that. I understand why England want to stick with him because he is obviously a talented player, and at his best, his batting is explosive and can brings a lot of dynamism and energy to that lower order. But I just wonder. I agree with you. I thought Jordan Cox looked fantastic. I thought just his basic technique. And it was actually my mother who I was watching it with on TV the other day who commented to
Well,
me, and I
mother knows
completely,
best.
mother knows best, and I completely agree with her where she said he plays the ball very late
Yes.
and has got lots of time. And I was a bit like, I completely agree with you. And that for me is always the mark of a really good player. Someone who appears to have lots of time, and when it's swinging, and he went for the cover drive, he was able to go with the swing, kind of open the face of the bat, work with it. Or when he's defending, it's soft hands very late, so it's hitting the edge, but it's going down rather than up for a possible catch. So I think he looks a really really good player. I mean, he'll obviously stay at three for the rest of this series, and then we have to see. But ultimately, it might be that he takes the gloves and comes in lower down once Bethel's back in.
That could be one for the future. Competition for places. It's a nice spot to be in, isn't it? Now, there's one other thing I want to ask you about before we wrap up. One other person that's in post on what we assume as a temporary basis is Joe Root, not as a senior batter, but as a captain. How did you rate his captaincy? There was one really quite inventive bit of field placing. So one of those wickets that Josh Tongue got in fairly short order in the second innings, he got one of the batters to clip behind square leg, and under normal circumstances, because it was well behind square leg, but well in front of fine leg. Under normal circumstances, you wouldn't have a fielder there, and Root did put a fielder there. So how did you rate him as captain, and when do you believe, or do you believe, Harry Brook will eventually be ready to step up? He seems to be making the right noises with some of his interviews, but he hasn't been picked at the moment.
I mean, I would imagine they're looking at this thinking he can get us through this summer, the winter, and the Ashes. And then, as ever with England, and Ashes is always a time for reviewing and make or break, whatever. So I'd imagine certainly for the next year or so he'll be there. I was very pleased they didn't give the captaincy to Harry Brook. In fact, I think I said on a previous one when we were talking about this, not sort of claiming brownie points, but I said I thought the only option was Joe Root in the short term, just to calm everything down, just to sort of professionalize everything, get back to some basic Test cricket skills. And I mean, he's probably going to be a better captain second time round because we all get better at anything the more we do it. I mean, we may never know the example that you talked about, whether that was sheer genius with that fielder or sheer blind luck. We may never know, but you'd always want a lucky captain rather than an unlucky one if it was the latter. I mean, with Harry Brook, I thought his innings was actually a real plus, not just that he got 90 odd, but that there was no sort of charging down the pitch, doing reckless, stupid things. You might argue he didn't need to do that because Pakistan were bowling at least one, if not two bad balls and over. I felt in the winter there was an awful lot of, including on this podcast, I have to say, there was a lot of anti-Harry Brook stuff, and I often would defend him, saying, well,
yes, I remember.
we can blame the guy who's averaging 40 and say he should be averaging 55, or we can blame the guy who's averaging 20. That's the reason Harry Brook is playing as he is. If you're coming in at 12 for 3 or whatever. I remember in the Melbourne Test, remember he was coming in at sort of nothing for 3 wickets, danced down to Mitchell Stark. I remember everyone, oh my God, what's going on here? Well, that's just a batsman trying to move momentum and change the game.
Because the runs weren't forthcoming.
Because no one else is doing their job, frankly. So I'm not that worried about him. I mean, he's rated number one or ranked number one in the world. And I completely agree with Joe Root. I mean, he's a 27-year-old. He's got 3,500 test runs, averaging 54. That's not the problem for England. If there's reasons we're not winning test matches or series, it's not Harry Brook.
I think that's a fair point. Based on what's happened in this test match at Headingley, would you have an unchanged 11? And do you think Pakistan will make any changes?
I think Pakistan will bring back their captain, assuming he's fit. So they'll obviously make a change there. In terms of their bowling, I don't think they have many options. They could play Bed Shah, Naseem Shah's younger brother, who I think is quicker. I haven't actually seen him, but I think he is a bit quicker. So that would add a bit of variety. I think other than that, they're pretty much stuck with the team they've got. In terms of England, I mean, the problem that we're going to have going forward with the retirement of Stokes is how you get a spinner into that team if you need to, or a test match spinner. No disrespect to Joe Root or Dan Lawrence, but how you get a test quality spinner into that team. But it might be that that's a decision that they can kick down the road. I mean, you've got these two tests coming up. You've got rain and cloud around
Plus, you're not going to get many turning pitches
in
in South
London.
Africa.
You're not going to get many turning pitches in South Africa where they play 3 tests in the winter. Fine, you've got Bangladesh after that. You have to bring somebody in for that. Then we're basically round to the Ashes again next summer. So it might be a decision that they can kind of duck and weave from. The other way round it, I guess, in the longer term, not talking for Lords, but longer term, is you give the gloves, as I said, to Jordan Cox in the top
Yeah,
six. Bring Rehan Ahmed in at 7 for
yeah,
his leg spin and some batting depth, and you get your 5 bowlers and your spinner in that way. So that would be, that's an option. But I think for the moment, I think England pretty much they certainly stick with the same balance of team. Whether you rotate one of the seamers out and bring somebody else in, Bryden Carse or whoever else, I don't know. I suspect they'll stick with the 11 that they've got, try and wrap up this series. Because I mean, England, no disrespect to Pakistan, but England should be looking to win this series 3-0.
yeah,
They really should, because then you could actually get to the end of the summer and say, despite all the shenanigans over Stokes and nightclubs and resignations and the problem of not really, we haven't even talked about the coach situation yet. I mean, you've got
yeah. Interim coach currently,
you've got interim coach at the moment, and then
Marcus Trescothick.
Marcus Trescothick, and then Stephen Fleming, obviously taking over formally for the South Africa tour, but as I understand it, very much in touch with Root and Trescothick, leading up to that. So it is a completely new start for England, really. I
Yeah.
was reading that Michael Hussey, they're trying to get him involved potentially as a batting coach.
Well, he's had involvement in an unofficial capacity before when England
Mm,
won their T20 World Cup in
T20.
Australia.
Mhm.
So yeah, so I and yeah, great affinity with English cricket. Absolutely wonderful player for Northampton, I should know. One of the best the club has ever been able to persuade to come there. So so it does feel a little bit brighter for England than it did a couple of months ago. So
It does, and
uh,
also I would just say that England English cricket has got a lot of very, very talented players, and we've kind of shown that this week that you can just swap people out and have somebody like Jordan Cox waiting in the wings. We've got lots of other good players. So I think that they actually will move on from Ben Stokes, great player as he was, more quickly than people think. I think there's enough good players in and around the team and the squad and the country that they will rebuild pretty quickly, as long as what goes on behind the scenes kind of professionalizes the setup a bit, and we don't have any of the nonsense of, Noosa and nightclubs, and I can't think of another N, but I'm sure there is one. Nincompoops, perhaps that's it. But they just need to play sensible, decent cricket. They've got a nucleus of a very, very good team that should challenge for lots of things in the short term.
well, you're sounding very confident, Alan. I'll pull you up on that this time next year if it all goes seriously wrong. But for the time being, I'd like to thank you very much for your time. I know you're almost in holiday mode, so have a great holiday.
Thank you.
And we will reconvene after Lords. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Good stuff. Thank you.
Bye for now.
Guess what? It's cocktail time. Well, actually, it's mocktail time because this cocktail is a Shirley Temple. There's no alcohol involved, which seems weirdly appropriate at the moment, doesn't it? Very simple to do. So you start with ice, always start with lots of ice, grenadine syrup, ginger ale, got some cherries in here, and just a few drops of lime juice. So we'll start off by putting 15 ml of grenadine in here. Here we go. Look at that lovely red syrupy colour there. And then we're going to add our ginger ale. It's nice and cold and fizzy. So, named after Shirley Temple, the famous child actress, the legend has it that she was sat in a trendy restaurant with her parents in Hollywood, and her parents were having cocktails, and she was a child, so she couldn't have a cocktail. So the waiter or restaurateur kindly made a cocktail for her using these ingredients.
And supposedly, Shirley Temple said she didn't actually like it that much. She said it was icky. So that doesn't bode well, does it? But let's see how we go. Right, so that's our 2 basic ingredients. We're going to add a few drops of lime juice. Just need a few drops. It's just to balance out the sweetness so that it's not too sweet or too icky, as Shirley Temple might say. And then we're just going to mix it up a little bit. So I'll show you the glass because you can't quite see it on the screen. It's going to be a nice deep red colour. I'm quite pleased with it, actually. There you go. That's how it looks. And I'm just going to add 1 cherry to that. And all I'm going to do now is add a suitably funky straw and then give it a little taste test. Cheers. Well, I'm going to politely disagree with Shirley Temple. I actually don't think that's icky at all. Mind how you go. Catch you next time. Thank you very much for tuning in to Cricket and Cocktails. We'll be back after the second Test match at Lord's. That starts on Thursday. And let's hope for a better playing surface than the one we saw in the Test match against New Zealand earlier this summer. And let's also hope for a bit more of a contest from Pakistan. Thank you for watching. Goodbye for now.